What if you could learn the secrets to mental toughness from amazing athletes and peak performers? I'm Dan Rickson, owner of Prime Mind Coaching and host of the Mastermind podcast. In this series, I sit down with extraordinary individuals from elite athletes to successful entrepreneurs to uncover the tools and strategies they use to navigate challenges and achieve greatness. We'll explore the power of resilience and high performance and discover how to take control of your thoughts, transform obstacles into opportunities, and achieve peak performance and well-being in all areas of your life. This is Mastermind, your guide to unlocking a life of purpose, resilience, and success. Subscribe now and join us on this journey.
Welcome to our guests, Lee and Helena, parents of Harper, their young daughter who they tragically lost far too soon. We're going to learn more about Harper's journey, the incurable cancer DIPG, and the ongoing legacy that beautiful Harper has left with us. This is truly a story of resilience, acceptance, and purpose, and as a parent, certainly one that hits close to home. Welcome, Lee and Helena, and thank you so much for joining us on Mastermind today.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your memories of Harper.
Harper was our beautiful daughter, is our beautiful daughter. She was perfect in every way. Even from the very beginning, like my pregnancy with her was amazing, and the way she came into the world was so beautiful. And yeah, from a very, very early start, she just had this magical aura about her, and it wasn't just us being biased parents. People, walk past her in the street and just smile or engage with her. And it really did feel like there was something very special about Harper. She was fun and she was cheeky and she was sweet. She was just really happy to go with the flow. We just think she was so perfect.
Now, Monday, 25th of March, 2019. It's hard for me to even ask the question. It's a significant day. Tell us a little bit about what happened on that day.
Harper had been unwell on and off for maybe 2 weeks. She had been a little bit lethargic. She had vomited a few times randomly. We weren't really sure what was going on. I thought maybe she had a tummy bug because she'd just started at preschool and there was a few things going around. But that day she stayed home from preschool. I had to go to work in the morning because I had an important meeting. And when I got home in the afternoon, I had planned to take her to our GP. And as I walked in the door, Harper was walking down the hallway of our house, and I could see that her left eye was turning in and deviating, which was alarming. That was the first time that we'd ever seen that happen. And then got her in the car to go to the doctor, and usually she would just jump in herself and get in her car seat, hug her, get her straps ready to go, and she was really struggling to get in the car seat. So again, started to be a little more concerned, or thinking it might be something a little more than a tummy bug. And then we got to the GP and we were waiting in the waiting room, and her condition was rapidly deteriorating. She was dropping things. She went to sit on a chair and she fell off. And within a matter of minutes of the GP seeing us, he was writing a letter for us to go immediately to the Children's Hospital. Which is when Lee arrived from work, and we literally got in the car and we went straight to emergency. And within hours, straight away, they put her straight to emergency. She went straight down for a CT scan, and literally within 3 hours of being there, we were sitting in a room, still in our work clothes from the day, being told by the emergency doctor that there was a 5 centimetre tumour at the centre of Harper's brain. And we didn't know what that meant. Lee looked to me and said, "What does it mean?" And I said to him, "It means that she has a brain tumor." And from there, our lives immediately changed.
So that moment you're at work, you're thinking about probably what you got to do for dinner. Life is normal, and then you get news of the impossible. You get news of Harper's unwell. It's not looking great. What goes through your head at that stage?
It's just such a foreign environment, I think, to start with. I mean, Harper had barely been to the GP. She was not a sick kid. She hadn't had any injuries. So even to find ourselves in an emergency ward was so foreign. And I think those initial conversations that are now we're very familiar with, and going through Harper's journey, we know so much, and we obviously now know so much about DIPG, but in those early moments, it just felt like almost an out-of-body experience, almost like you were watching a movie, or this wasn't really happening. Your immediate reaction is to try and find out, what we have to do, and we use people in the medical world, so it was sort of rely on immediate sources, but I don't think anything could prepare us or allow us to fathom the true reality of what we were learning. That Monday night, we were then even told nothing was going to happen. Yes, there's a tumor, but nothing was going to happen until tomorrow. At 2:00 in the morning, Harper started to have a seizure because of fluid built up on her brain. We were then rushed into her first emergency surgery. Again, Helena was still wearing high heels. I was still in a business suit at 2 a.m. because we thought we might be going home. The following day, we were having a major surgery to remove the tumor. So within 24 hours, we went from being at work, Harper being somewhat unwell, to Harper undergoing 2 brain surgeries, and learning our fate that there was a tumor that was going to have serious implications to Harper's life.
What was the best case scenario from that initial surgery on the brain?
We didn't receive much information, to be honest, in the early days. We knew that her condition was deteriorating rapidly. We could sense that from the urgency on the faces of the doctors in the ICU ward. So after Harper had the surgery to remove some of the fluid that was building up, she went to ICU and she was basically on life support. But again, we'd never been in an environment like that to know what the machines were and what they were doing. But in hindsight, looking back, she was on life support. Like, she had a tube down her throat to help her breathe. They were observing her, 24/7. She had a one-on-one nurse, which is what happens in ICU. We couldn't even get in the bed to hold her or hug her because she was literally attached to every piece of equipment you could imagine. And then we had one particular nurse who noticed a difference in the dilation of Harper's pupils. And from there, it escalated very quickly. The brain surgeon who was on duty that particular day came to meet with us very urgently and said, "We need to get Harper into surgery," which they did within a matter of 30 minutes. We were walking down corridors. At this point, I was wearing Lee's gym gear because I had to get changed out of my work gear. We didn't know what day it was or planet it was. We were literally in total shock. And we didn't know the severity of it. We knew there was a lot happening and it was happening quick, but we didn't get the detailed information.
The medical teams really protect you. I think they had a very good understanding that it was probably a likely...
They knew more than us.
They knew it was an aggressive tumor. They probably even knew at this very point in time it was probably DIPG. But it took us 11 days before we actually got Harper's diagnosis. And during that 11 days, we weren't really told anything.
Yeah, everything is in hindsight looking back. Now when I look back, we were given our own room when Harper did go back to a ward, which doesn't happen in a children's hospital. So clearly they knew that Harper had a terminal diagnosis and we weren't told that at that point. We waited for 11 days with bated breath, hoping that, it might be a good tumor in a bad spot, which also could be life-threatening, but we were hopeful that it wasn't cancer. And on a Friday night, the lead surgeon came into our room after we waited and waited and waited all 11 days. She sat on the end of our bed and she was very relaxed, and she said, Harper has a brain tumor. She wrote down DIPG on a piece of paper. We had no idea what it meant whatsoever. I guess the worst part of it is we contacted someone who we knew who could decipher it for us, and he said to Lee, is it diffuse, which means does the cancer spread like octopus tentacles, or is it not diffuse? Because diffuse was obviously worse, and we got the confirmation that yes, it was diffuse, so diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. And then from there we knew, okay, this is bad. And there was an element of positivity. The surgeon wrote EGFR receptor, which meant that there was a type of cell within Harper's tumor that might respond to some treatment. So there was this element of hope that, okay, but she has this EGFR receptor. And we thought maybe there might be a treatment option that can target that, then we'll turn the tumor off and, it's going to be okay. But yeah, we were given the worst news of our lives 11 days after the very worst day of our lives. And even still, it took a few more days before someone actually gave us all of the information and told us the prognosis, which was 3 months if we didn't do radiation, or 6 to 9 months of survival if we did do radiation.
So for us who haven't come across DIPG, are fortunate enough not to have come across it, what is it? How can you explain it in sort of layman's terms?
So it is an incurable brain cancer. The midline of the brain is where these tumors grow. So diffuse in nature means the cells have like octopus tentacles and they can grow and reach out into the healthy brain tissue. Intrinsic means like the internal pontine mid-range of the brain, and glioma is like a high-grade cancer.
The nature of where these tumors grow, they're incredibly difficult to operate on. So that's the first probably significant problem. It's not like you can just go in and...
Because that region of the brain actually controls so many of our bodily functions, like breathing, temperature regulation, speaking, walking. Yeah.
So hence...
Doctors generally don't go near that area.
Yep. So just to begin with, just the complexity of the operation to have tumor surgical removal, there's so many risks for some children that come out of their surgeries not as well as Harper. Harper was able to recover from her first tumor removal. She did have to learn to walk again. She had to learn her motor neuro skills again in terms of eating, talking, and she had obviously suffered. And there were repercussions from her surgery, but nothing too dramatic. But yeah, as Helena said, the statistic for a lot of DIPG patients is that the diagnosis is less than 12 months survival rate, 3 months with no radiation, 6 to 9 months with that, and around 25 children per year in Australia are diagnosed with what is considered the deadliest tumours out there, and certainly it is the biggest killer of Australian children in terms of cancer. Brain cancer is the biggest killer of Australian children.
Wow, it is unfathomable. And we fast forward through this period where Harper's learning how to walk. You still get time with Harper. She passed away the day before her 4th birthday, and you said something earlier, Helena. None of us know the type of resilience we had until faced with the impossible. And as a parent with kids around the same age, that is the impossible. What's the grieving process look like for parents faced with the impossible?
I think it's really different for every single person. Even in our relationship, it's been really different for Lee and I. It's a journey. We included a quote from one of Harper's favorite books in Harper's eulogy, which is from The Bear Hunt. And it said, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you have to go through it. And that has really stuck with me a lot. We've really faced our loss and our grief head on. We haven't tried to mask it. We haven't tried to escape it. We go with the waves. We're 5.5 years down the track now, and it is with us every single day. People say it doesn't get easier. Time heals all wounds. There are lots of things that circulate in this grief world. We don't believe that time makes it easier. We do believe that you learn a lot, you learn to live with it or ways to manage it. For me personally, I am happy to sit with it. I think my grief is my love for Harper. I immerse myself in nature. I'm generally a very creative person, so I will lean into my creative pursuits. And I think, Lee has his own experience with his grief. We as a family have chosen to tackle grief head on because we believe that we have, probably a long life ahead of us, and we don't want this to turn us into horrible people or, make us sad. Yeah, we try to channel our loss and our love for Harper into more purposeful things, I guess.
Do you mention this being a bit of a learning experience for yourself and Lee? In those initial stages before you figured out, nature was something that helped you grieve, what were the things that helped you get through those initial stages?
Taking one day at a time, definitely.
Starting really baby steps, I think. I mean, you go from losing your entire identity, in its entirety. You go from being parents and having a routine and having to feed your child and bath your child and get your child to bed and do things on a daily basis to literally waking up, finding yourself no longer in your employment because you're not working, finding yourself without your daughter, your child. So I think real baby steps. I mean, for us, we learned, we had to build a little bit of a new routine, and it was important. We had to, as Helena said, we tackled things pretty head first. We decided to, go for a walk down to the cafe and get our coffee by ourselves, which was the first time we had to do that in 4 years. We had to rely on some exercise to make sure that we kept our bodies, moving so that our thoughts were able to also, process. We've learned a lot 5.5 years later through having a grief counselor that we've done a lot of work with. Helena does a lot of reading and found, probably solace in some of her creativity. But I think it was just sort of really trying to build a small routine and find a very new normal in a space where all you want to do really is not face the day ahead.
Yeah, honestly, everyone has their own way of dealing. We have got out of bed every single day. There has not been one day where we have let ourselves feel sorry for ourselves. We definitely question, why Harper and why did this happen to us and how did this happen to us? But on the same page, we're not going to let it totally destroy us because we feel like that's not what Harper was about and she wouldn't want that. So there has not been one day that we have not got out of bed. We have got up and we have put meaning into every single day. In the early days, we were gifted a trip to Bali, which was absolutely beautiful, and it was exactly what we needed at the time without knowing that we needed it. And one morning, Lee and I got up at 3:00 in the morning to hike up a volcano, and I don't know why we would have done it, because why would we put more hours in the day by waking up at 3:00? We would look forward to going to bed because at least our minds could somewhat rest and be absent to our whole life situation. But we woke up one day and we did this hike up a volcano, and it was so steep and it was so unsafe. And it was so beautiful. We were literally hiking in the dark. And I remember thinking to myself, don't look up, because if you look up, you're going to fall. Like, literally just take one step at a time. And that stuck with me as well. Like, grief is that. Like, don't look too far ahead. Don't try and forecast what's it going to look like in 5 years, because you actually have no idea and no control of what it's going to look like. But literally just one step. Like, today, let's get out of bed and let's go and get a coffee. Or today, let's go and do something that honors Harper. Like, let's collect some flowers for her and put them in a special spot. Or it's literally baby steps one day at a time, because if you get too far ahead of yourself, it is totally overwhelming. And I think of that volcano analogy often, because we were in the very, very, very early days of our grief. Like, I'm talking 3 weeks after losing Harper, we got on a plane and we went to another country, and we hadn't traveled by ourselves in over 4 years. So even to get on a plane and go somewhere without Harper was totally overwhelming. But being in nature and, like, bringing it back to just that one initial step in front of you. If you can take this step, then maybe tomorrow you can take the next step.
What an amazing metaphor that is, or analogy that is, the volcano. Literally one step at a time. And it sounds like that.
We would have fallen off the cliff, honestly. Yeah.
And I love that analogy. And people call it, resilience, these sorts of words. And I guess resilience is one of those skills that everyone wants, but I guess the lesson that everyone avoids. So by most people's definition of you both, of Harper, you certainly fit into the category of resilient. I just wonder, what does that, in your journey, what does that word mean to you?
I think being resilient, we're being resilient because we want to prove to Harper that her journey and her life and her passing into RPG isn't all in vain. I think if we give up, if we don't show up for one another, if we don't show up for now Harper's two brothers, it's really, we feel like we're giving up on Harper first and foremost. So our resilience purely comes from Harper. And when we talk about that word, and even during her journey, I mean, Harper's resilience during her journey in her 7-month fight with DIPG, there was no option for us to be weak. There was no option for us to not be resilient, because we weren't the ones going through what Harper was going through. We weren't faced with surgeries and all the things that she had to go through. So I think our resilience, what it means to us now, it's just probably allowing Harper's legacy to shine. I guess honoring the life that she did live, which was big and it was full and it was happy and it was, it was filled with love and it was loud and it was just beautiful. And to not be resilient and to give up and to try and shy away, or to not climb the volcano, to close the door and pull the dinner over our heads, it feels that would be letting Harper down.
So you mentioned Harper's two brothers. You've had two more beautiful children. You said sadly never had the opportunity to meet Harper. How do you include her in your day-to-day lives?
Well, it is daily. I think I won't take much credit here because Helena's got a beautiful way of intertwining Harper into so many facets of our life. There's so many moving parts to that question, but I don't even know really where to begin. But Harper's just a part of our world. I mean, Harper's bedroom, we've recently moved house, and Harper's bedroom is set up exactly the way it was, and we read books in that bedroom with our two boys. When we go to the beach, we talk about Harper. We have special rituals. We talk about Harper daily.
Yeah, like we'll show Brooklyn and Brody photos and videos. If we're out and about and something reminds me of Harper, I'll say to them, "Well, Harper used to do this," or "That was Harper's favorite color," and just bringing her into the present with us. And so much so that our 4-year-old Brooklyn will, if we're out and about and he's collecting flowers, he'll collect 5 flowers and he'll say one for everyone, and he'll say, "Here's one for Harper and here's one for Brooklyn and So it's obviously filtering through because he is actually including her in his daily life as well. We have photos of Harper around the house. On all of the special days, we openly talk about Harper. I would say one thing that we're about to embark on that we struggle with is maybe the finer details of what happened to Harper. We haven't approached that with her brothers yet. I don't think we're ready to open that. We know it's coming. But also we have this element of protection where we don't want our two other children to be fearful, because Harper was actually never fearful. Like, she didn't know that she was sick. She definitely didn't know she was dying. She didn't know about death. So yeah, there's an element of protection. And I know that's a challenge that we're about to embark on as Brooklyn gets older.
I've always just told Brooklyn that Harper's in our hearts. But now those questions are becoming a little heavier, where Brooklyn will ask, how did she get into our hearts? Is she coming out of our hearts? When do we get to see Harper?
How tall is Harper?
How tall is Harper? Is Harper older than me? Whereas he has always liked the idea that, Harper's in our hearts. And when we talk about Harper, we say, our love for Harper's right there with us. She's with us in our hearts. So as Helena said, I think we're going into some uncharted waters that we'll tackle when we have to. But we've been very, very forceful, I guess, in the sense that Harper is in every aspect of our world. There wouldn't be a moment or a day that's not very evident in our life.
We talk about the concept of acceptance a lot, and we sort of we talked earlier about this, and I just wonder, listening to you talk, you seem to have a grasp on reality. You mentioned before you didn't pull the covers over your head. You've accepted that this has happened. How do you shift your mindset from angry at the world, this isn't fair, we have been dealt bad hands, to this has happened, this is what's within our control?
I think that bit is actually a process. And I think you do, as much as they say there are not stages of grief and it's not linear and it goes up and down, constantly, I do think with time, your concept of it does change. Initially, I actually don't think the shock wore off for the first 2 years. I remember being, 2 years down the track and it feeling harder and worse than the beginning. And I remember being frustrated and angry, like, why isn't it like shifting or, getting any easier? But it wasn't getting easier because the shock was wearing off and the layers were peeling back. And like, the more you read and understand, like, the brain actually has a very amazing way of protecting itself. Otherwise, you wouldn't survive. So, there were things that we had to probably compartmentalize in other parts of our brain so we didn't remember them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get up out of bed. Even to this day, like, our youngest son is going into hospital on Friday to have a very minor procedure, and we need to put him under general anesthetic. And we did that over 30 times with Harper. And on Friday, we were about to put ourselves in that environment again, in that situation again, and it's totally re-traumatizing and triggering. And we're facing it head on. It's not something you want to do, but we realize we have to do it. But yeah, back to, I just think that your body, like, somehow your brain protects yourself so you can survive. And then the layers start to shed away and you start to realize the severity and the reality. And at that point, I think you just think, like, okay, we've got to get real with this. Like, this isn't going away. How are we going to shape our lives? It's shaped us totally in terms of individually, our personalities, the way we go about our life. It has totally changed our perspective and shaped us into different people. But yeah, I think initially, like, there is no preparation for it. And the one day at a time is, I guess, the only approach, and it's a process. Like,
I think I mentioned to you that we're accepting of the fact that we accept our future. We've come to that acceptance that we will accept that this is the card that we're being dealt and this is our reality. So from there, we accept that we want to do things to make sure Harper's legacy shines really brightly. That feels really important to both Helena and I, and hence we'll talk about 100 for Harper, no doubt shortly, but that's where, our charities played such a large role in someone in that acceptance and aligning with people like our aligned charity like RUN DIPG. And I guess what we won't accept is, how unfair it is. We probably don't want to accept that this will continue to happen to other families, hence our commitment to wanting to do something in that space. But
we'll never be okay with this.
We'll never be okay.
But we have accepted that this is our reality.
Yep.
And it's now, okay, what do we do with this? But we're never going to be okay that our daughter died and that she was faced with the type of disease that had 0% survival and will continue to. 20 to 25 children a year is actually a classroom filled with kids. So school's going back this week. You can imagine kindy, whole group kids. That's what 20 kids looks like. And that's going to happen until there is a difference. Until we can get the funding and the research, and something has to change.
So similar to the resilience piece, it's probably no different. Our accepting of our reality just basically means we now have to do something for Harper to make sure that it wasn't all in vain. And we really feel strongly that Harper's, she's changed more people's life, in my opinion. I know so many people that have changed their ways in a small way, in a large way, through watching what Harper went through and potentially how Helena and I have handled Harper's journey. And I've said before, but some 94-year-olds live a full life and they don't leave much of a mark on the world. Whereas Harper at the age of 4, there's so many people that have been affected by this. And, I'm so proud of Harper for having that impact. And I guess that's where we have some acceptance in this space. But as Helena said, we won't ever accept that Harper has passed away, but we'll accept that this is the journey that we, will carry on with for Harper and for our family and for our 2 boys.
Yeah, it sounds like the perfect time to talk about how you've transferred your pain into purpose. How exactly are you doing that at the moment? Tell us a little bit about 100 for Harper and your work with DIPG, or fighting against DIPG.
Yeah, I think in the weeks after losing Harper, there was a brain cancer walk, and naturally people wanted to help us. So people were donating food and they were donating money to a WhatsApp and we were donating, to a GoFundMe. And we donated quite a lot of money at the time to brain cancer, the Cure Brain Cancer, which is now looking back, it's a blanket for both adult and pediatric children's brain cancer. And it wasn't until probably a couple of months after we got to meet with Matt Dunn, RUN DIPG, and instantly we, other than having a connection through both losing our daughters, but we knew that Matt was the man and his team at RUN DIPG and his wife Phoebe, they were the people that were going to make the biggest change in this space. So it was obviously a no-brainer that we wanted to align with them. And I think the moment we did that, we felt like, okay, if we raise $1, we know that Matt's getting that $1 and the Dunn Lab is going to get that $1. And what they do with that, it's going to have an impact. So I think we were happy that sort of really early on, we kind of questioned funds that we were raising were going to do something. And we pivoted relatively quickly and aligned with RUN DIPG to make sure that the money that we raise moving forward, we know where it's going and it's tangible now. And I guess that was where the evolution of 100 for Harper kind of started going, we want to do something in this space. And I guess it started with, off the back of that brain cancer walk, which was a public walk at the time. And a friend reached out a year later and said, because of COVID, that walk was no longer happening. And he said, well, let's do something. Let's do a 100-kilometer walk in honor of Harper. And literally we started with 8 people, to the following year, 26 people. And then 3 years ago, we had our first 100 for Harper event, which had 56 people in a gym. The following year, 128. Last year, 250. So if you get the picture, it's literally doubled year on year. And and we're looking to double again this year, which is going to be our biggest event yet, which is super exciting. And we've got an ambitious target to raise $250,000, which is just something we're super proud of, and it's something that does give us purpose. It gives Harper's journey purpose. It gives the people that are involved purpose.
Yeah, the event has totally grown in an organic and unforeseen way. The fitness world actually has zero to do with Lee and I and Harper, but it is actually a community of people who are just so supportive and competitive and just so committed to helping.
Intimate, it's camaraderie,
The ripple effect is the most profound thing. So basically the way that it's structured is that you will sign up a team, and that's either a team of 4 or 8 people, and each team gets a fundraising page, and basically the ripple effect is that that team will share their page amongst their community to drive awareness and fundraising. And then on the day of the event, we obviously encourage spectators to come along. We will talk about Harper and her journey. Matt from RUN DIPG will often talk about the charity and where the funds are going and how vital the fundraising actually is for what they're doing. And because it's grown so organically and it's doubled in size every year and has this ripple effect, like we're really infiltrating into, huge broad areas that we never expected. This year we've got participants from Newcastle, all over Sydney. Last year we had some teams from Queensland region. We're hoping to continue to grow it every year. It's super exciting because most people who show up for the first time have never heard of DIPG. And when they leave, they know exactly what DIPG is. They know how important it is for families like ours to be out there creating awareness. And it's actually the community who are having the most significant effect. So we're facilitating the event and we're out there making the noise, but it is actually the community who are helping us grow this. This year we're moving the event down to the Sutherland Shire, which is really exciting. We're really happy to grow into other regions of Sydney where previously we were in the Northern Beaches, and we've got great supportive following from up there. And yeah, we're expecting close to 400 participants. It's going to be an awesome day. As Lee said, we've got a goal of $250,000 this year. And we are also very excited to know exactly where that money is going toward, what that money is going towards, because today RUN DIPG are announcing that there will be a Harper Dowdall International PhD scholarship. We have a very qualified researcher who will be funded to conduct research at the University of Newcastle in the Dunn Lab. And every single dollar that we raise this year will be going directly to OCR and Voice and what she'll be working on in terms of the cancer research.
Wow. There's a lot to digest there. You're doing such amazing work. To put, I guess you mentioned being tangible before, to make those numbers tangible in terms of the work you're doing. First year, $57,400 raised. Second year, $81,400. Third year, $154,000. So that audacious goal of $250,000, judging that the numbers are doubling each year, I think is really realistic. So people get an idea of what this, I guess for those who aren't involved in the fitness world, would seem a pretty ridiculous event. What is actually involved? How does it work?
Yeah. I'll start off by saying that last year was our first leg of creating the enthusiast leg of the event, because we certainly didn't want it specifically for the elite, which is the teams of 4. So essentially anyone can do it. The 100 kilometers is obviously the challenge. So it's for these teams of either 4 or 8 to complete the 100 kilometers. Depending on whether you're in that team of 4 or 8, each participant will do a run leg individually. So that run leg will be either a 10-kilometer run leg for the elite teams or a 5-kilometer run for the enthusiast teams. That once all participants have concluded their run of either 5 or 10 kilometers, you go into the gym where there's 3 stations. One's a bike, One's a rower and one's a ski erg. Each member will tell you they hate those machines at a different level. But essentially, you start on the bike. There's, I think, a 34-kilometer bike ride. Once you get halfway on that bike, it opens up the rowing leg. Once you're halfway through the rowing leg, you finish on the ski erg. And your team will just go as hard as hell to basically complete that 100 kilometers. And it's fierce, and it's loud, and it's hot, and it's sweaty, and it's camaraderie, and it's intimate, and it's just, as Helena said, we kind of stumbled into this fitness space, but it's been something incredible. So it's a 100-kilometer challenge with your team, and
it's nothing in comparison to what children with DIPG go through. So that's the justification, that it's 3 hours of hard work, and it is intense, as Lee said, but it's literally scratch on the surface.
And it is. And the talk, having done it a couple of times myself, you come out here on an absolute high because the camaraderie you speak of and the thought process that this is not even, as you said, scratching the surface of what people suffering DIPG go through. And if we can contribute in any way, whether it be $10, whether it be a team donating more, then it's such an amazing thing to be a part of, and we're privileged to get the opportunity. So those who aren't quite as enthused as what a few of us are about this event, how can they be involved in the day?
We have actually lots of opportunities to get involved. At the moment, we are seeking volunteers. So as we know, no event can run without the help of a committed team of volunteers. If you're able to put your hand up to help on the day, it's on Sunday, the 6th of April, 2025 at Reborn Athletic Hub in Caringbah. There are different sessions you could volunteer for. Your jobs might include manning a water station or handing out some sugar like lollies and fruit. You could be a timekeeper. You could help with the bump in, the bump out. Lots of easy jobs, but we can assure you it's going to be a fun day. So if anyone out there wants to get on board as a volunteer, we've got a link on the 100 for Harper Instagram account that you can follow and fill in your registration, and we would get in contact about the details. Volunteering is one way. Another way that you would potentially support is through donations. We run a raffle on the day. We have an online raffle for some of our higher ticket items. We've had some awesome accommodation prizes in the past that have helped us raise over $10,000. So some accommodation or some like high ticket items, always greatly appreciated, but obviously prizes or donations of any type help us towards the raffle. We'll be selling raffle tickets prior to the event and on the day of the event, and all of those are drawn at the event, at the conclusion of the event. And also something that is instrumental in us being able to run such an event is corporate sponsorship. We are thrilled to have some of our previous sponsors on board again, but we are seeking more corporate sponsors to be part of the 100 for Harper family. We've got quite a few different sponsorship options available, and there's a lot of exposure because of the various groups across Sydney and Greater New South Wales who are involved. So, if there's any small business, large business out there who wants to get on board and be part of a movement that is starting to gain its legs, we would love to hear from you. Again, you could reach out through social media on the 100 for Harper Instagram account, or you could email info@100forharper.com, and we would gladly open a conversation with you in terms of corporate sponsorship, or you could come and spectate. So it's Sunday the 6th of April at Reborn Athletic Hub in Caringbah. It's going to be a great day. So
I think it's something as small as you could follow us on Instagram, because again, this is just simply an awareness piece. When Harper was diagnosed with DIPG, there were not a lot of resources. And we feel that even in the 5.5 years, there are other families that are doing their own charity work, along with RUN DIPG and 100 for Harper. There's a lot more information now about DIPG. As Helena said, people are really starting to learn about it. So as small as following us on Instagram, checking out our 100 for Harper website or Instagram, all the way through to corporate sponsorships, being a spectator, registering a team. We've still got some spots available. If you don't feel like you're the fittest person, get 7 of your mates and do the enthusiast leg. I think this year the enthusiast leg's probably going to be bigger than the elite teams because
It's the finale.
it's going to be the sort of final leg of it. And I think if you're at the gym when that final team finishes their 100Ks, the roof's probably going to fall off. But yeah, so a whole cross section. The info at 100forharper.com.au. Follow us. Something small, something big. Donations, sponsorships.
If you have little kids who might be in the area or are coming along on the day, we're also introducing a 100-kilometer fun run. So that will be a 1-kilometer run. Kids will sign up on the day. They'll be given a token, and if they do the 1 kilometer, they get to put the token in the box. And with the goal of accumulating 100 kilometers for Harper, get the kids involved this year is a little addition that we're really looking forward to as well.
That's awesome. I love that. I know plenty of the kids down at Reborn will get involved and absolutely have a great time. For those who are umming and ahhing, maybe we're going to do it, maybe not. Is there a close date to register?
There's soon to be, yes. So last year we did sell out of tickets, and these tickets are still selling. We're a little bit ahead of schedule this year in our release, but we do have some capacity left. So feel free to jump on right now and get your team registered. But yeah, 1st of March, just from a logistical point of view, that allows us the month of March to sort out some things at the back end for our teams and getting merchandise and singlets and things sorted out. So you've got the month of February if tickets don't sell out prior. But don't keep it too late, because what happens is you do sell out and then all of a sudden everyone goes, oh, we were going to do 100 for Harper this year, or our friends are doing it, and is there any other teams available? But yeah, over the course of February, get your team locked in, and then by the 1st of March, we'll have all of our teams locked in, and we can do our logistics at the back end to make sure the event is the best it's possibly could be.
Well, the links to donate and the website to learn more about DIPG, Harper's story, and the upcoming 100 for Harper event, which is Sunday, the 6th of April, can be found in the show notes. I'll make sure to put it all in there. Please join the fight against this disgusting disease. Every dollar counts. Lee and Helena, thank you so much for sharing yours and Harper's story, and thank you for all the work you're doing fighting against DIPG.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us on and for creating further exposure for us and for 100 for Harper and for Harper. So thank you.
This is Mastermind, your guide to unlocking a life of purpose, resilience, and success. Subscribe now and join us on this journey.